Cool. So what we're going to be doing is going over a very, very simple way to generate clients. We're going to be using our B2B verified business data. Now, this is different to calling mobiles. The reason why we're doing this is because you're going to get a high contact rate actually contacting the businesses. I find that when you're contacting mobiles and direct numbers of businesses and business owners, it can be a bit of a harder pitch because the first thing they ask you is, how did you get my number? And then kind of lost the frame a little bit there. Um, I will go over to tutorial on how to do that though. And we do have 40 million B2B phone numbers actually being cleaned at the moment for our Q1 cleaning. So I'll share my screen and then I'll show you guys basically the strategy we're going to use here. So let me just pull this over. Okay. Now, a couple of things. The first thing is we're going to just keep this very simple, right? I'm like a lot of people like, well, can you use AI? What about adding more intent? What about going outside your ICP? You can do all of that. But this is just very simple. And I made this very simple as well because I want the guys that are in our incubator to be able to, um, really start leveraging this. Okay, so first thing you want to do is everyone's got the AI assistant. I'm just talking to AIs. Um, So first thing we want to do is you want to find your ideal TAM, okay? Your target addressable market. Now we're going to be doing most of the stuff inside the audience builder today. You can add on intent segments and do it um, via the consumer, and you can do that with B2B to C, and you can layer on intent. You can do all kinds of stuff, but we're just going to be using the B2B builder because I just want people to, if you're struggling and you're like, oh my gosh, there's so much to process, so much to do, this is just going to be great for you. All right. So what you're going to do is you're going to go over to the B2B builder, which is just here. We're going to create a new audience and move my fat head, and we'll just call this new audience. My developers must absolutely hate me because I just call things the most random name. Anyway, so what we're going to do is when we're in here, uh, we're going to be using the job title, and then we're going to be layering on some SIC code and some industry stuff. But the job title, you can actually do so much damage just with this alone, because sometimes people might have been a certain SIC code, but you might want to go even more granular in terms of the exact job title they're doing, right? So for this particular one, I mean, I did dermatologist. I thought that'd be a fun one to do. So what you want to do is you want to search different titles. And a good way to do that is to literally just open up ChatGPT and just say, um, please create a list of job titles that a dermatologist would use. I want to be able to identify them in a prospecting list. That's it. That's the prompt. That's the $1 million prompt right there. But you just grab a list. That's it, right? So we just grab a list. So we'll just grab things like dermatologist. Okay. Um, yep, there's a replay. This is recording. So don't even worry. Just check it is. Yep. So you just go in here and we're just going to go to business builder. We're going to go to job title and we'll just type in dermatologist, just like so, right? And let's just hit search and then see how big the TAM is, the target addressable market. All right. So dermatologist, just by dermatologist, we got a few titles here. Now you might be like, oh my gosh, that's not many dermatologists in a data set. And you're right, because we just use dermatologists. If we use SIC code, it'd be a lot bigger, but we're just using the titles. And then we're going to layer on SIC and a bunch later. So we've got dermatologists. Let's get into medical dermatologist. Let's do surgical dermatologist. And you just want to get it big enough where So let me start there. Okay, cool. So we've got a pretty big audience here of dermatologists, right? You can see Connecticut State Medical Society, King Dermatology. You've got University of California Davis, Frontier Derm Partners. Like we've got a decent list. All right. So once you have that, then you might want to add in if you go over to the company section, you might want to add in sick and you might want to add in industry. All right. So it might not be an industry. Let's see. Let's do health, hospitals, and healthcare. Let's try this one and just see. This might really put our search down. So just keep that in mind because we're adding titles, but no, we've still got a pretty good title here. Okay, cool. So what we want to then do, as you can see, this is still quite big, is you can add your states or whatever. So let's say, for an example, we're doing Florida or we're doing Texas. So let's go in here. And what we're going to be doing is doing personal state. So this is where the actual person is. Now, if the person is in an office, then it's still going to be in the right state, but you'll be at a different address. I'll show you kind of how you can go through that. So let's just do, I don't know, something like Texas. Let's do Florida. I did Florida the other day. FL. Okay. All right, so we'll chuck that in. Let's see how big it is. So 20,998. So that's a pretty decent list. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to, what else can we add? I think if you really wanted to, you could go through and you could mess with the seniority, but I'm not going to. You could get here and do the department. We could filter it even more. But the thing is, the more, like, if you have that, it's not going to go really wrong because you're looking for dermatologist, medical dermatologist, surgical dermatologist. And then if you come in here, it's hospitals and healthcare. So you're going to get a pretty decent list. So once you have that, you're just going to hit generate. It'll start generating the file. And while that's happening, I'm going to have a list that I've already prepared. So I'm going to show you guys how to manipulate the data. Because when I open spreadsheets, it nearly broke it. Let me see here. Sorry, I was talking amongst yourselves. Let me just make sure I get this list up. Type any questions while I'm doing this as well, and I'll answer these while I just pull up this sample data. Any questions? Yeah, I mean, you could just push it through the webhook, and you could just push it through, you know, quite a bit. That list is quite big, but we're not gonna be doing like crazy follow up on every single person because I'll show you why. So let me just pull this through. I'm just uploading this to Google Sheets so it's a bit easier to use. I will be. So I haven't mapped this out as in like day one, day two. You could really just do this in day one, but this is to help you get clients in 7 days. So first thing we're going to be doing is we find our TAM. So put in the B2B builder, put your different titles. You can layer on sick if you want to get more accurate, layer on your location targeting. Then what we want to do is we want to get a decent amount of numbers, right? I was looking it up and I was doing a bit of research about the average in terms of B2B cold call, and it's about 2 out of 100 calls are going to convert to a warm prospect. Average pickup rate is going to be 28%, but even that's high. I would say it's going to be around 20%, right? So it's going to be yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. So what you want to do is you want to aim for at least 1,000 B2B numbers that you're calling in a sample so you can get an idea of what your pickup rate is. And then you can start, doing a bit of math and calculating it from there. All right, so let me just pull this up. You guys should be able to see this. I'll just put it in here. It's a bit easier. So what are my businesses in here? Do you guys see that? All right, so we'll isolate this row here. I'll just call this Florida. Okay, so we've got our list of businesses here. Now, I could have probably added more filters. And, this is a pretty big list, but, you can always just come in after the fact and do it. But, if you want to have your audience, then you want to sync it through webhooks and things like that. I could have added more filters, could have added sick. So there's going to be companies in here that maybe they're not dermatologists because I didn't put that in. So I was just doing it based on title, but you should have everything good to go inside of here. So what we're going to do is going to isolate this field. And this is actually something we're going to have, we're beta testing this at the moment. It seems to be working really well, but we're going to be adding this as additional toggles and filters for you guys because we have a bunch of toggles and filters coming in so you can manipulate the data in different ways. So we're going to go right to the end here, and you'll notice that we've got this thing here, which is B2B skip trace source. Okay, so I'll give you guys an example. So let's say we have, I said a flower shop. Let's say, we've got a dermatologist, right? They're dermatologists in Florida, and they mainly service maybe the local areas. Maybe it's like a city in Florida or something. And most B2B data sets are pulling in data from their LinkedIn, right? They're looking at their LinkedIn. That's why you'll see sometimes you might have this founder title, but then they're working in this industry because LinkedIn is not always going to be accurate. It depends how many times they're pulling it. So most data sets, I would say, if not all, are pulling through LinkedIn information. And if you are a small business, you're not really updating your LinkedIn. Maybe you created the page on LinkedIn to just get started. But since then, the past 2 years, you've started to expand, you've started to move into a bigger office, and you're not doing much on LinkedIn. Where you are posting everything and where you are putting the most accurate details is directories. You're creating a Yelp profile. You're creating Google My Business. You are getting registered on Nextdoor. You're trying to increase your visibility for the local market to be able to find you, right? So directories is the holy grail to be able to find good numbers that you can call. Now, you will hit gatekeepers because it's a public number. It's the verified number that the business wants people to call them on. But I find this works way better than just attacking mobiles. And I'll show you how you can increase your pickup rates and things like that. But so what you want to do is you want to go across and you see here, we've got this field that we've created, which is called skip trace B2B. So essentially what we do is, let's say this is dermatologist in Fayetteville. So I click here. Every week, we have an engine that's pulling in and building our database from these directories. And these directories I find are so much better than any other data I've used because what it is it actually has, you have to verify your number in order to join. So there's a 2FA verification. So on LinkedIn, you might not have to verify it. On Facebook, you can just put whatever number, but this is like a very accurate way to be able to get the good number of the business. All right. Now, sometimes if it's a big company and you look at the directory page, the number will be different to what's on the website. And that's because this is on a local level. So let's say, for an example, it's a big insurance company. You've got Stephanie Smith, who's part of a insurance company, and she has created a local directory for herself because she's got her own business within a business. And that's why it's going to be different contact details there, right? So like if she's working with like Allstate and she has her own license and she's focusing on this area, she's going to have her own listing. Whereas if I just go to like the Allstate website and I look at the number, it's going to be different to what you find here. So I just want to make sure I clear that discrepancy. This is finding stuff more on a local level and going through these directories. All right. So you can see here, it's got reviews. When they claim these pages, it works really well, particularly for Nextdoor. Zoom Build is what we use for contractors. And this just works really well in terms of contacting businesses. Okay. So what we do, the next step is we have created a score. And this is something that is very, so I've got exact age. Where's the score? There we go. Okay, this is something that we actually built in-house. Now, the reason why we did this is because before we were matching these companies, right, we were matching them based on address. Now, if you're doing B2C, consumer, matching based on address is always going to line up, right? Because, you know, you'll have somebody put their address and they match to the address and it's usually going to be them. Okay, but with businesses, what I've found is a lot of businesses use PO boxes. A lot of businesses will create a LinkedIn. They won't even have the address on the LinkedIn. They'll have an old address. A lot of the public available data for addresses in terms of businesses is going to be different to what it actually is. And we've seen this by just hitting the data, and we've seen in call centers and things like that. So what we did is we actually released what's called Skip Trace Match Score. Now, this is something that like can't really find in any data set right now because I don't think anyone's doing it to this level. But essentially what we do is we've created a scoring system based on what we know that works, not based on an inferred model of this is what we think works, but actually testing the data. And we found this is what works. Okay. So like some fields score higher than others. So for example, we found that company plus city, they have the company name matching up from an online data set plus the city. We're able to determine fairly high accuracy. Okay, well, this is the actual company. If you just match on address alone, we actually score that lower. All right. So this is how we score companies. It's different for B2C. So what you want to do is you want to come in here and we're putting a filter in the actual platform so you can sort by match score. We're also putting something in so you can sort by date last seen. And we're doing something with all of our B2B contacts where we're seeing is there activity on LinkedIn too. So we're putting in some pretty cool toggles, but we're going to come in here and you're going to go here and you're going to, where is it? Sort ZA, right? And they've got all our data here. So pretty much anything over 8 and you're good to go. I mean, if you get to 6, you're still going to be okay. But what we've done is we've scored these based on the points of data that we see match across from an online to an offline to be able to see like, okay, this is a good number to call. All right. So let's say for an example, you've got, so My Health Apple, Bayer Dermatology. So you've got all these businesses here, and that's what you want to focus on. Now, again, some of these are not going to be dermatologists because I didn't apply all the filters. So just make sure you add a SIC code, or there's a bunch of things to do to make sure you don't get anything outside that area. But if you do the title, SIC code, industry, you should be good to go, right? So what this is essentially doing is making it so that the online data matches up to the offline data because businesses can be tricky. Sometimes businesses will move around. Sometimes they'll have a PO box. So this really makes it so that all of these line up. So you're going to make sure you're getting the right, the right address and making sure you're getting the right person. Okay. So for example, you got Family First. So let's jump in here. Actually, let's do, what's one that's good? I'll do this one because this actually says. Right. So we got in here and then they have this number here, but then if you go to the listing, that number may be different depending on what they want for the directory. I find the directory numbers hit really, really well. So if I just grab, 315. Oh, it's the same number, 315, 637. Yeah, well, the same number there anyway. But often if you find the directory number is different, I would always go on the directory side because when they set this up, they're trying to optimize it. They're trying to get people to call them. So it could be a direct extension. It could be for a certain offer. It could be sometimes they actually put their mobile. We find that probably 15% of the numbers that we pull from directories are actually mobile numbers, particularly with small business. So it works super, super well. All right. So that is how you get a list of really good numbers that you can start hitting, which are all these. Okay. Now, let's go back to the sheet. Let's do a quick temp check. Who understood what I just did there? Okay, no one. Fantastic. All right, cool. Robert's got it. Cool. Cool. Followed. Cool, cool, cool. All right. Does everyone think they could do that? Everyone thinks like you can go in, find a business. Yes, you can add intent. I'm not saying you don't add intent. I'm just saying I'm just keeping it very, very simple, right? Anything over 6, I would say is a go-to. Like if I come in here and I go all the way down the bottom, shouldn't have done such a big list, but anyway, I got all the way down the bottom. Let's get like a 6, right? So if I see here, where's our company address? So the company, like I can see the company here, right? Bowman.com, but it's taking the address and then it's matching it and then it's actually pulling in a different company, which is what we see in a lot of B2B data sets if it doesn't have this type of match score. Yes, I can. Hang on. The score is based on quality of skip trace B2B number. I'll actually show you guys what the score is based on. I mean, it's not like a big industry secret. So we're starting to work with more dialers and just see like how can we get the most active feedback loop for calling? Because just running a number on a directory or running and skip tracing a number, it's like we're trying to determine who's actually answering, right? So the number's a little bit different to email because email, I can see 200 plus million opens a day on emails and I can see like that to apply to all the different data sets for email. But when we get to calls and matching up B2B data, this is essentially the scoring we're using at the moment. Now, this can change. Okay. So I don't want people to take a screenshot of this and be like, ha, like that's how we're going to do it. It can change based on what we see is working. But this gives you an example of what this would be like. So you've got a company domain. And then if company domain matches up, it's usually like, okay, this business hasn't moved. It's good to go. Company domain partial. If the company domain and the company name, there's actually a match there. We've got company name plus zip, company name plus city, company name plus state, address, company name, phone, email, and so forth. And what we do is we combine these scores up. So we find that address actually doesn't have nearly as high weight as it would in a B2C context. And this is not something that's like we just discovered. This is like if you buy data from like big companies, like we, have gone through lots of data through companies like Zoom Info, and it's like this isn't put into place. So like when you're doing outbound to a lot of these like actual businesses, you'll usually get the wrong number. So it's pretty rad. But anyway, yeah, you'll just go through the match score and just make sure you get from highest to lowest. You can still hit the lower ones, just if it's the wrong business or the numbers different to the business. That's why. It's because it could be a PO box, it could be a company that have put something on LinkedIn ages ago and then it changed. It could be a bunch of things. Okay. So, once you've done that and you've got your list, the next thing you're going to be asking is like, okay, well, do I just call all these 1,000 people? And the answer is, could you briefly explain the credit score? Do you mean the match score or the credit score? Because otherwise we'll come back to that. But I want to make sure I focus on the B2B side. The score. Oh, I did just explain the score. Did you come in late? Because it's a weighted value of like what we see has the most impact in terms of oh, okay. That's right. I'll send you the recordings so you can see. But yeah, I did explain the score in terms of the weighted values and everything. All right, so I don't want you guys to go through and just call 1,000 B2B numbers. Chances are, if you're talking like an only 28% pickup rate, And that's high. I mean, I would say it's probably going to be below 20%. However, this is direct business numbers. So you're going to hit a gatekeeper. So that's actually probably going to be like, you could be 50, 60%. That's why I always go for these numbers instead. All right. Yeah, high number, better matching. So what you want to do is for your list, you want to start off by doing what's called a warm we're going to set up a warm call. All right. So this is something that's like, I've made this mega, mega easy. Yes, you can use Instantly. Yes, you can use Smart Lead. Yes, you can set up a system. You can send them 1,000 emails every single second of the day. You can do that, but you don't need to, right? Instead, what I would suggest you guys do is you can actually just send emails from your Gmail, hold it, within reason, and just pick out some of these businesses and just focus on, I don't know, like 500 a day or something. If you do that, like you're going to get a client, right? So what you're going to be doing is I like to use this, which is called yet another email merger. Now this just plugs in directly to you just need Google Sheets and a Gmail account, and that is it, right? Yeah, I'll drop a copy in the end. So as long as you use this, like it's cheap, it's easy. All you do basically is you're going to get your list, put it in here. So you have email, first name. You can do a first line if you absolutely have to. If you can do that, you can just do it in ChatGPT. I can record an SOP of how to do that. But you would just basically have company and then just have please write a first line based on the company. Like you can do insane things with AI if you want to do the first line. Otherwise, just do the first line yourself, right? So then what you'll do is you just create an email template, right? So you have hi, and then you have your first name, and this coincides with you the Google Sheet and how you have this laid out. And then what it does is it just merges it. So it just sends custom emails to people and it just works directly from your Gmail. Now, this doesn't scale to 10,000 emails a day, right? You're not going to be able to do that inside here. Okay, so this is probably going to be maybe 500 emails a day. I would really stick with that on the max to start. But the email that I'm getting you to send is pretty to the point, and I don't think you're going to have a lot of spam. This has been tested quite a bit. All right, so you're going to go into yep, and I'm going to get you guys to use the template that I put together. Now, the template we created, oh, didn't have it open. Let me just pull up the template. Yeah, well, $3 a month, 400 a day. That's not bad at all. I mean, and you don't have to do any warm up, nothing like that. When you get to scaling and you go balls to the wall, then yeah, get an Instantly account, get into that. But if you're just talking like you just want to get some quick clients, this is what you want to do. All right. So let me just go to the pitch email. This is inside. This thing here is inside our paid community section. I can't hand this out just to anybody because it does have case studies in it. So if you're here and you're not a member of Incubate, not a member of Dash, then I mean, you can technically you could just take a screenshot, but it's essentially we have like licensed case studies that we allow people to use. So what we do is we have case studies and hooks inside of here, but this is the email format that you really want to get a takeaway from. So subject line is just name, can we chat? I know that subject line sucks, but it just works. Every time I try something else, it doesn't work nearly as good as that. You could have quick chat. Quick chat doesn't really work as well. But again, you know, split testing, all that stuff, that can come later. Like you're just going to get a few people to reply. And really the point of the email is a conversation starter. It doesn't even matter if you have many people that reply to the email. Okay. So you can have a custom first line if you want. You can remove this part because you're not introducing on LinkedIn. You could say thanks for, you know, you can just include this as part of your custom first line. The main parts you want is reaching out, and you want to follow this to a T. Reaching out is, reason for reaching out is I wanted to discuss a performance-driven partnership with a few of the clients you currently have under company. Now, I'm targeting dermatologists, so I don't want to say clients, right? Instead, I want to figure out how can I make this work for them. I'm looking for a mutually beneficial partnership type of angle, right? So if I was hitting up an agency, then I could easily do this client's part, but you want to adjust this to your avatar. Okay, so the key part here is performance-driven partnership because it's showing like, hey, like I want to do something performance-driven. Okay, for company. Then this part here is the part that we give you like slot ins, which is the cold email one-liners. So you got your highlights, and then you've just got your offer, right? So it just slots in. So reason why blah, blah, blah is boom. And this is like a very specific, credible offer where I can assist with blah, blah, blah. And then for example, and then you just have a sweet case study here, which if you're inside a DaaS incubator, you guys can access these. I've basically just put in a bunch of one-liners. Now, these are licensed based on case studies that we pull in ourselves and what clients let us use. We don't use names in this. It's really just your hot point and your first line. And then if your client needs you to produce that, we do have a deck that we have. Okay, so I'd love to set this up for company and the products you have. And then you just say, can you chat between this time or this time? Right. And that's it. That's the email. Okay. So once you have that in play and you put that through your email merger, you'll send 500 emails, you know, whatever. You'll look into your, and I'll put the prompt there of what you want to do for your custom first lines, but you put that into your YAM, and then you'll quickly see, you know, email open, email sent, unsubscribe, bounce, like whatever. Now, all you care about is the unsubscribes. You just want to make sure if people unsubscribe, you're not going to call them, right? Because they don't want to speak to you. If they've opened it, if they clicked it, some people might reply and say, yes, I can do this time. Like you might see a lot of success from that email. But the point is, we want to actually go through and call these people individually. Okay. Now we're going to hit gatekeepers because we're going to be calling their office. We're not going to be calling their mobile. We can call their mobile, but I'm going to create another training on that because it's a different type of format. All right. So this is essentially what we're going to be doing is you have their, you know, as long as they haven't clicked unsubscribe, you're good to go. You grab that number that you have. What I would do is when I do this sheet, I would just have like, I would come in with this sheet here and I would just keep the B2B phone. Then I would just have first name, last name, and then I would just have the business email. Now the business email, what you want to do is see where it says business email validation status. You always want valid ESP, okay? Because valid ESP means we've actually seen an email signal. Now, if you take a list of valid ESPs and you put it through an email verification platform like Zero Bounce or Million Verifier, you're going to find you get a lot of catch-alls. Okay, if you don't know what a catch-all is, it's basically, they're just saying like, I don't know, really. I gave an analogy in our private school. I basically said majority of email verifying platforms, there's this term being coined, triple verification. And essentially what that is, it's just multiple pings of an SMTP. And that's its most simple way to verify an email, right? SMTP is equivalent to driving past someone's house. And if you see a car's not there, you're like, all right, they're not home, on to the next, right? It's not always accurate. Okay. Like maybe they took the bus to, you know, take the bus to it. Maybe they don't have a car. Maybe they, you know, like they only have one car in the household. Like, there's all these reasons. All right. So that's why you get a lot of catch-alls. So if you take a list of ESPs, you put it into Zero Bounce, whatever, it's going to say, hey, 80% of this is good, but the rest of it is catch-alls and risky. We don't know what to do with it. Right. Now, we've got our own verification system coming out. Currently, we're cracking 2 million emails a day of our B2B data set. And we're going to be adding a validation here, and we'll just call it deep verified or something. And this basically means that it's gone through SMTP and it's gone through our catch-all API to be able to determine if it is, in fact, an email that you can email. Because out of any catch-alls, about 30 to 40% of them are actually valid emails. So if you take a list of 10,000 people and you put it in something like Zero Bounce, and then let's say they're like, oh, 1,000 of these are catch-alls, I guarantee about 300, 400 of those actually aren't catch-alls. they're verified emails. They're just houses that don't have a car there right now. Maybe their inbox was full and it's not full. There could be so many reasons. So it's such a big thing, but I don't want to go too into the verification part. The point is, valid ESP is what you want to go for now. If you need to run additional verification, I would recommend it just for this smaller list, but probably I would say, I mean, yeah, 2 million a day, first 30 to 100 million. Probably by March, I think we should be good to start rolling out this tag for all of our business emails, which means every email is validated. And then we're doing the personal email stuff. But yeah, so once you have that, essentially what you'll do is you have those fields included in your sheet, then you can just merge it. And then what you're doing is you're just looking to see anybody that hasn't unsubscribed, right? The unsubscribed, you don't want to call them, but the people that have subscribed, you can call them, all right? Oh, sorry, the people that have stayed subscribed. So it doesn't matter if they've opened it, doesn't matter if they've clicked it, doesn't matter if they, haven't seen it. Just look for anyone that's unsubscribed, and those are the people you don't want to hit up, obviously. Then what you do is you just want to hit up the gatekeeper. It's probably going to be the gatekeeper. Maybe it's a small operation. Like I said, in 15% of the cases, people actually put in their personal number on the directories, which is why I love the directories, because they put on their mobile because they want to get those calls. All you're going to say is, hey, is name there, right? And they're either going to be like, this is name speaking. What is it? Or sorry, they're in a meeting, even if they're not in a meeting. And you're just going to say, look, I recently sent them an email and I did not hear back. I just wanted to follow up. Would they be available for me to call back or quick call back to ensure they received it? That's it. Very direct, not a pitch. You need to work with a gatekeeper, right? You don't have to pitch on that call. All you're doing is just asking, did you receive my email? Now, the reason this works is, if you wanted to get into the psychology of it, it's kind of social engineering. It's like if, because you don't have any kind of connection there, but you've sent an email and you're leveraging from that touch point, it just works way better. The alternative, right? You call a gatekeeper. Hi, I'm just wondering if Thingo's there. Why? Oh, I'm just wanting to discuss email. And then they just hang up on you, right? What you're doing instead is you're sending an email, and the email has the good stuff. It doesn't matter if they don't see it at first. The fact that you sent that email and you're just calling up as someone who's concerned, in worst case, you're just good at follow-up, it's going to convert so much better, right? So, I mean, let's do the math. If you send out, let's say you send out 1,000 emails, right? So you get into a Yam account, you pay the hefty price tag of $4 a month, and you're pushing out these emails just from your Gmail, not doing any kind of warm-up or anything. You're doing it day dot. You don't have to wait 2 weeks for a warm-up period. So you're sending those out, and then you're just making sure that you're not calling anyone that's unsubscribed. You call these people up. Out of, let's say, you manage to get on to, out of 1,000, you call up at the right time. Maybe it's the morning or afternoon, and you hit, let's say, 300 people. You're going to get people from there that are going to call you back, or they're going to grab the person that you're trying to reach and is going to say, this is blah, blah, blah speaking. And you actually get them to open the email, right? And chances are they're going to really understand what you're talking about, because it's a bit crock brain state. They're going to be a bit like, whoa, what's going on here? But you will get a second call, and you will be able to build your pipeline a lot easier than doing anything else. It's quick. It's easy. It's going to just get you calls and your foot in the door in a very quick way. All right. Any questions? So could we filter the spreadsheet by business email, business email? Yeah. It's different. I mean, if you're doing the business email, it's classified as online data. So like business email is, as long as you have ESP valid, it means it's valid email. The thing is, you have catch-alls. So if you just send ESP valid, at the moment, you might have some bounce back, because you could have a few nasty ones on there that are a catch-all and technically they're alive, but maybe the inbox is full or something. Our API that we have that's cleaning out all our emails and all our data at the moment, that's going to add a verification tag for you. Once that's in, I would say in March, depending on the math of pushing out these emails, like we're going crazy on just really deep cleaning out emails. You'll be able to have a tag inside the platform, and you can just push it directly from the platform to the email sender. You don't have to do any kind of cleaning whatsoever. We go through catch-alls, SMTP, we score the MX records, we see like what type of email they are, like we're doing all of that on all the B2B emails and then all the B2C emails. I haven't put it in there yet. I'm going to put the sheet in there. So stand by because I'm working on a kind of an outbound section for that. All right, quick temp check. So what did we do? We went through, we found our target addressable market, okay, and we made sure it was big enough. If you go through and you go so specific where you only have 100 people, so you've got 100 people to call, you know, you're going to get maybe 2 appointments if they pick up, if every single person picks up, right? Like that's not gonna fly. Okay, so if you're in a very small location, you need to think like, how can I make the numbers work? Like cold calling doesn't matter how good the data is, doesn't matter what you do. It is a numbers game because people don't know you and they're not wanting to talk to you right now. You know, maybe you get them at a good time. If you layer on intent, you know there's intent, but they still don't know who you are. So just keep that in mind. You still want to, it's still a numbers game. It's more in your favor when you layer on intent and you layer on your ICP, but it is still a numbers game. So just in the business builder, everyone has access to that. Even if you incubate or DaaS, everyone's got access to the business builder. Can you do this in our audience builder that has intent and allows you to refresh and everything like that? 100%. You could easily do that. But again, I'm just keeping it very, very simple. All right. You want to aim for about, 1,000 numbers in your sample that you want to actually get through. You don't have to call 1,000 people. I mean, I could probably change that, but ideally you just want to get a list of 1,000 people that you can do something with, right? And then score the match score by highest to lowest. Now, the reason why you do that is purely for the calling, okay? The B2B email is, that's an online thing. So like we know like that's the person's email, but matching the email to someone's address, that's a different ball game. And that's why we put our scores in place. So if you wanted to, you could just grab a list of people, put them through, and then you could sort through the replies or anyone, and then you could do the scoring. But I'd recommend just getting a list of 1,000 people with a high score and then taking the email and doing the next part before you're doing any kind of calling. I would say that the data does not include TCP intent. I'll go through and do that. I mean, so this is just a reminder on this, guys. This is B2B. Okay, so this is a publicly listed number in a public directory that the business owner has actually put their number in saying, I would like people to call me who want my services. These I find work way better than doing personal mobiles. Reason being is personal mobile, it's a personal mobile. If somebody calls me on my personal mobile, I'll be a little bit weirded out. But the thing is, in this day and age, because not many people actually have corporate offices or they have a registered PO box, so they work from home, a lot of people put their mobile on the directories. So it's them saying, I want you to call me at this number. So you're calling at the number that you want to call them, but you are actually sending an email prior and having just an opener, which is going to increase your chance of getting a meeting. Okay, so I can record some tutorials on Yamm, but if you just go on the website, it's mega easy. I mean, I was going to do it and then I was like, it's just going to be a waste of time. But you basically just set up a sheet and then you send an email template and then all the directions in there to be able to send out a bunch of emails. Could you use the automated method with TCPA? Technically, it is a business number. So I've been told, I mean, the lawyers that I speak to, the people that I speak to, they say, look, if you're calling a business number and it's a registered number, it's a bit more lenient as opposed to just straight up calling a consumer number. Can you use AI for business numbers? I can't give you a definitive yes or no because it's a gray area. Like no one can give a straight answer, but it's a lot better than B2C. I can say that with confidence. All right. I'll pause this and then I'll go through any questions people have.